Okay, so you got beef, right?
I've got beef.
You got beef?
I've got a lot of beef. I'm gonna just give you guys a heads up. I'm really fired up about this one.
Okay, let's hit the intro and we'll talk about it.
Let's roll it.
Look at me. What am I doing?
Man, I got to
I'm ready. I'm ready to dig in. I'm ready to dig. You said you got the beef. Let's dig in. Spill the tea, my friend. Spill the tea.
Okay. All right. So let's just start by saying I'm Zack. This is Jason. We are Hustle Machine and co-host of Hustle Machine. We also are co-owners of Market House, a website development and marketing agency.
We are co-friends of the same relationship.
That's right. That's a weird way of saying that, but I liked it. But we also have 20 plus years in marketing and website development between the two of us. And we are excited to crush what we call hustle culture and what maybe even just redefining what hustle culture is. And so we've spent a lot of time giving some tips and pointers and things that have we've experienced as being entrepreneurs, speaking directly to entrepreneurs. But I want to take some time and unpack some of the hustle culture that we experience in this our Western culture specifically. Now, that may be happening in other cultures outside of the United States, but I'm specifically talking about what I see happening here in the United States
daily.
And gosh, it's sickening, and especially when you've worked with them, and especially when you work with some influencers, you have worked with some influencers, and how that those particular ads start showing up in your Instagram feed because you have to do some research and all that stuff. So now you're getting they're in your news feed on social media, and it's exhausting. So let's just get into it, because I saw a video of one of these particular influencers who was, they were in a gym.
Yeah.
And they were up early and the gym was empty. And they pointed out that they got up early and were in the gym working hard. And they made a statement that really irked me. And that was, I'm up doing this, and everybody else who doesn't want it bad enough is still in bed. I wanted it bad enough, so I got up and did it. Now, I get the phrase. I understand that we have to put ourselves in some uncomfortable situations. We have to stretch ourselves to get there. But there's a shaming that happens. I had my mic. There's a shaming that happens that I feel like is toxic, and it's not just in entrepreneurship. It's in the workplace. I mean, we could tell our stories of plenty of opportunities where we've experienced that work culture, toxic thought process, mindset that was just being dumped into. And I hear stories all the time. I actually had a conversation with a friend the other day about how they got out of that culture as well, just recently, and how it was just exhausting and they felt extremely burnt out. But it's the shame that I want to hit on, because I think that there's so many people that are out there that will put these videos out, or will say, or these influencers who will say things like what that person said, or they'll say things like, if you want it bad enough, you'll get up and do it, or listen to my process because this is how you should do it. If you want to be successful, you got to do it this way, and you got to work 9 to 5, and you got to sacrifice this, and you got to sacrifice that. You got to put everything away, and you got to do that. That irritates me, because I know plenty of people who have successful businesses, have successful businesses now, have run successful businesses in the past, and didn't do that. They didn't sacrifice their family. They had what from the outside, they had it all, right? They had the family, and they had a successful career. They had a team that they were running. They were going on vacations. They were going on trips. They were taught. And I see that. And I see these people who are working 9 to 5, not 9 to 5, like working constantly, preaching this hustle culture, and they shame others for not doing it their way. Like, it's like, if you didn't do it my way, you didn't do it the right way.
Yeah. It's like it's just some weird, messed up badge of honor that people just walk around with, going like, oh, I'm doing these things, and you're not, because you don't want it bad enough. And if you did, you would stretch yourself so thin that you're just gonna suffer, immeasurably. For years, you always had several people in a typical office setting who, for some reason, they hang their hat on the fact that they work the most hours, whether or not they're getting paid for it, especially if you're in a salary position, that they work so many hours, that they get there before you and they leave after you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Good job. Good. I'm glad that you did that thing. But it might be the problem with that is, though, if the culture of the business, the culture of the company that you're working in, rewards that kind of behavior or looks favorably on that person, that's the downfall right there, because you can work really hard during the time that you're at work.
100%.
You don't have to come. There are times when you need to come in early, or you need to stay late because you've got something that's happening, but you can also end your day when you're supposed to end your day. You know what I mean? So like, there was something that one of my first bosses told me on my very first day of work. And I think I've mentioned this on the show before. At the end of the day, I was stressing. I was like trying to get everything in. I'm like, man, I'm not going to finish. I'm going to have to stay late on my first day. And she was like, you know what? Stop. You're never going to be done. So just find a stopping place and move on.
Yeah.
And I think that was really critical for me. I mean, yes, I did come in early on that job, and I stayed late for certain things that I needed to, but I usually tried to make it a point to work a set schedule. And, there's no trophies, right?
No,
there's no trophies for going way beyond what you've been asked to do. Yeah, there might be rewards at the end of the road as a bonus or something like that, but touting that to other people,
it's the shaming part that's the issue, and it's the sad part. If it works for you, go for it 100%. And we've said it on the show before. If you're single, you don't have a significant other, you don't have kids, that is kind of like that's the prime time you should be going after. You should be working really hard. Well, you shouldn't. Well, shouldn't say really hard. I should say working those longer hours, because you can. You literally could.
Yeah.
You don't have anybody else relying on you and wanting to spend time with you. I mean, you may, but I'm
you have
saying
fewer. You more than
obligations.
More likely, you have fewer obligations and fewer time restraints that you have.
And so for me, I've seen it. We've even had it said to us, and we've told our story at the very beginning of starting Hustle Machine, and in the conversation we had with a person we respected. And a lot of times I still listen to this person's clips, and I still think that there's a lot of value that this person brings.
Mm-hmm.
But when they said that's to us about sacrificing, you got to give up your weekends, you got to give up your nights. You got to give up time with your family. You got to give up to all these things. It's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And I think when it's preached that you have to do it their way or you can't succeed.
Yeah.
And they create courses and they create all kinds of things to give you and say, this is how you got to do it. You're going to hear all these other people say this, this, and this, but if you want to be successful and you want to do it and you want to make your dreams happen, then you have to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. They're selling a product, but you're shaming.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend of mine who suffers from insomnia. Him and his wife run a business, and they run a very successful business. But he doesn't get up early. He doesn't get up at 4 o'clock. He doesn't get up at 5 o'clock. He probably doesn't get. I don't even think he gets up. I don't really know what time he gets up. I just know that he suffers some insomnia, so he's up really late because he can't sleep. And then, why are you laughing?
I don't know. This is a very serious thing, but when you were like at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I was like, I thought of that episode of The Office where Jem and Dwight are sitting there. Yeah, they're sitting there talking about like how long the rations or how long he would last in an apocalypse, and like he's like, what about 363 days? Yeah, or whatever. Like when he's going like on and on and on. And on.
Well, I think of the episode where Pam gets hurt at the volleyball game, and Dwight says, "How many people have to get hurt? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. All right, Dwight. No.
Just hear me out. Yeah.
4, 5.
Yeah.
And me and my wife actually make that joke often. We actually did it the other night because Hazel, our daughter, said something and it reminded us of that. And so we started going 1, 2. No, hear me out. 3. So
anyway, you can continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to break a serious moment, but that just struck me as funny.
No, he suffers from insomnia. He runs a successful business. Him and his wife run a very successful business.
Yeah.
And the thing that bothers me is that guy now not successful because he doesn't do it that way?
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't. No, he doesn't want it as bad.
And it's like, because he's still in bed, dude. Like you can't make statements like that. It's toxic. It's shaming, and it drags people down to the point where oftentimes they'll say, "Well, I can't do that. I guess I'll put my dreams on hold because until I can do that."
Yeah. I just don't know. Some people are responsive to that though. Like that's how some people are motivated. I don't know why.
But you know why? Though? Because they can do that.
Yeah. Or they feel shame. Or they feel shamed. And that they're responding to that shame that you're talking about. I mean, it's a great point, but I just think that I don't respond to that. I don't want. No, I don't. If I had seen that, I would have been like, you know what? Nah. No, not for me.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
For me, man. Sorry.
When I watched it, I really got angry. Like it really bothered me because I thought of my friend who has insomnia. I thought about all these people that I know who feel like just completely beat up, exhausted. They feel like they're inadequate to do what they're trying to pursue, what they're trying to grow in, and what they're trying to develop, and what they're trying to build with their business.
Yeah.
And when you say things like that, it's so toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be helpful for you. And you, congratulations, pat yourself on the back. You don't have to parade that around. You know what I mean? Like, what value are you bringing when you do that? There's literally zero value that you bring to somebody by shaming them into believing that they have to do it a certain way or they're not successful.
Yeah. Well, it's all that's doing is glorifying yourself, right?
Yeah, it makes you look like, oh, look how important I am.
Yeah, like it's I don't want to butcher this term. Self-adulation, is that the word for it? Or self-congratulation? I can't think of the word, but
sounds good to me.
It's like you're heaping all the praise on yourself, making yourself feel good. It's like, does this guy get up every day and do this, or is he just like the one time he gets up, he's like, oh yeah, I'm here. You know, I'm Jocko. It's 4 a.m. You know, like,
no, Jocko doesn't parade it around as
no. This guy is trying to take on that Jocko persona. It seems like where he's like, you know, but Jocko is very serious and methodical. You know, I'm good with him. Plus, I don't want to make him mad because he could crush me with his pinky. But you know what I mean? But like, I think that when I see that, because I see it a lot, you also see it in like, I think it's a problem with gym culture. And I'm talking, you know, as if I'm there all the time. I used to go to the gym quite often back in the day, and run and stuff like that. But, you know, circumstances with health and things like that, it makes things change. And would you like to always be active? Yeah, I would. But, you know, there was a time for years where I just couldn't be. And that stuff does shame. It makes me feel it, like it made me feel like when I would see that, because I see it just like you see it. Sure. When I've seen that, and especially during this time of my life when I was really, really sick all the time, I was like, man, I can't get out. Like I feel like I'm less than. And that stuff is messed up. Like when people post things like that, I think it really is messed up, because in no way, shape, or form should you ever make anybody feel less than. And I think that's that whole toxic thinking that you're talking about. And it's not just in the gym culture. That's where that's where you saw it in that one instance, but it's so rampant in just work and entrepreneurial hustle culture, where it's like, I'm going to run myself ragged. I'm going to ruin all my relationships. I'm going to belittle everybody else and make other people feel less than.
And then when you get
this mad scramble for the top.
And then when you get there, what do you have to show for it?
You got a sea of bodies in your wake and no friends.
Right.
But people are looking up to you like, oh, what's this guy got to tell us?
That's surface level though. You know what I mean? It's all surface level. Because if you dig down deep, there's no substance there.
Yeah. It's got to feel pretty hollow.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where that self-gratification comes in, because it's like, I may have lost all that, but look what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Look what I've done. And it's like, okay, there's one aspect to your life that seems somewhat appealing, but the rest of it looks like disaster.
I think it's what you said. You said, I think early on, from the outside, it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the outside, it looks
good. Or you could say that it sounds good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying sounds really good. And I think you can still say the same thing, but preface it, right? So saying like, I'm up in the gym because this works for me. I'm up early. This is where I'm uncomfortable. This is where I get uncomfortable and I need to stretch myself. And the way I stretch myself is I force myself to get up out of the bed and get going. And my big win to get myself going, like I think Jocko says, the hardest part of working out is getting it done. Like, so go ahead and knock it out first thing in the morning. You've got the biggest win of your day done. Yeah. The rest of your whole day is a win.
Yeah.
Because you got that first big win out of the way.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go down that route, great. But I think preface it by saying, this is one way to do it. The goal, though, is get yourself uncomfortable. How can you stretch yourself today? How can you get yourself to where you want to go? Where can you make some stretches today that will impact your growth as an entrepreneur? If it's that route, if it's fitness, whatever it may be, what is that stretching point?
There's something that's been running through my mind ever since we even talked about this topic the other day, just internally, and that it's not a contest. So let me unpack this. So in an office culture, in a work culture, interactions with other employees, people maybe vying for the same position, that part can be a contest. Like the actual hierarchy of the job and who's going to get what and who's going to get what project to work on or who's going to get what lead, that in itself might be some type of contest. But the measure of your worth as an employee, as an entrepreneur, as a human performing a task, the measure of your worth is not wrapped up into how much of yourself you destroy in order to be successful.
Yeah, 100%. And if you find yourself in a work environment like that, run now. Like, put your resume together, get it all cleaned up, get your LinkedIn, start making networks or start networking, and get out of there as quick as you can, because it's a very slippery slope. Because as soon as you start to slide down that path, it's hard to get back out of it. Because we've both been in it.
Yeah, there's always going to be people. Don't get me wrong. There's always going to be people like Boastful Bob, There's always going to be a boastful Bob at your office. Be like, I've been here since 6 a.m. I've been here since 6 a.m. doing my TPS reports. Like there's always going to be those people who are talking about staying late and, but like, you know what? You can work hard and make a difference during office hours, and you can go hard. Like I worked with this lady years ago, and she was always very punctual. She got to work right on time, and at the end of the day, she punched out and she was gone. And her time was her time. And I think somebody said something to her, and I like overheard her response. She was like, "Listen, I gave every bit of myself to this company for years. I came in early. I stayed late. I worked through lunch. I did things that nobody ever asked me to do. And I got a pat on the back. I got acknowledgement, but it didn't make a difference in my life, nor did it make a difference for the company. Like I could have done the same things during my set time, and it would have been fine. The outcome would not have been different, but I ran myself ragged for what?" And so she's like, "You know what? I give 150% of myself when I'm here on the company time. I give everything I have, and I maintain complete focus during my time here." And it was true. She would eat in her office, but she wasn't like a, super personable. She would eat in her office, and then she would go back to work. But while she was at work, she was focused and she was dedicated. And that was it. She worked within those time constraints. And I always remembered that. And that was not a conversation I was in. I just heard her talking about it. But
you were eavesdropping. I
was dropping eaves. And but that always stuck with me, because I was like, that's a good mindset to have. It's not about running yourself ragged to build a brand for yourself or for someone else. It's about staying focused and giving all of yourself when you're being paid to give all of yourself. It's about maintaining focus during those hours that you've set to work. It's not about coming in at 5 and leaving at 6 or 7 and being late for dinner and missing a kid's event or not being able to fulfill obligations that you have. It's about coming in and just giving total focus while you're there. And I think that's as much as you can give. And it pains me that so much of work culture is so toxic, and just like people are like, oh, you just came in at 9. Well, that's when I'm supposed to be here. Like,
right.
Why? So what? You've been here since 8:25.
You know what I did this morning? I prepared food for my kids. Exactly. I made breakfast. We sat down and we had a wonderful breakfast. And you know what? I'm going to go home, and my wife's going to be cooking dinner, and we're going to sit around the table and talk about our day. That seems like what I want to have.
Exactly.
And we've been in cultures where that. Well, I've seen work cultures that parade that as what they say is what they believe, but who gets applauded and who gets the pat on the back more so than the person who does the 9 to 5 and they're there from 9 and they're there to 5. Those people get more praise than the other person who just is doing it right on 9 to 5. But I think what a shift could happen, and I think what would be beneficial. My brain was just going, as I was talking about it, I was going like really, really fast. But I wish that work culture would shift from this hustle mentality, hustle culture, because I believe that like you said, you can work hard, and there's times where you will have to stay late, and there will be times that has to happen. But let's don't reward that. Here's what I think. Right. It's exactly what that lady you said, that you were eavesdropping on the conversation that lady said. Something resonated with me is, why don't we shift the hustle culture to a productivity culture? So when you're on the clock, let's work culture shift to, how can I maximize my time the most effectively from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock? Yeah. Or we shift our work culture to when is the most productive time for people to work. And that's one of the things that we've implemented.
Pump the brakes. Are you telling me that we should be, and instead of running ragged, we should just hire effectively and train effectively and work within the strengths that employees have.
100%. But there is a missing piece, and I feel like this is something we've implemented with our team. Is setting your schedule. Because one of the things we ask in interviews, and one of the things we ask when we hire on somebody is, when do you work best? What times do you work? When are you most alert?
When are you most effective?
When are you most effective? For me, you know that 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, I hit this massive slump where my brain is not ready to go. But in the morning, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Everything's firing on all cylinders. I'm ready to go.
What was it? This Monday, you started Monday morning. You were bebopping and scatting around the morning meeting. I was like, you got to pump the brakes, man. I am not ready. I am not ready for this level of Zack.
There was friction there too because of that too, because it was like I was ready to go. Like we had our meeting with our project manager, and I think you guys got on the call before I did, but I prepped you guys before. I was like, I have these things that I want to go over with you guys, and like, but I know both of you aren't the most alert during that time, and I should have thought about this. The most alert time.
You came in hard with 2 night owls.
That's true. I did. And so what we've implemented in our culture, and we're going to keep this in our culture, is because we work remote and because our hours can be flexible because of the way the nature of our business is. As long as we can be flexible enough to have meetings during the day, I don't care if you work most of your hours in the morning or most of your hours in the afternoon and evening. I don't care. As long as it's the most productive and the most effective time for you. And I think that that's where businesses miss out on, because they go, well, no, everybody's got to work 8 to 4. Everybody's got to work 9 to 5. And if you don't work that, and it's like, then you get frustrated and you have these performance review meetings and you go, well, no wonder they're not doing well. It's not the most effective time. And what you're asking them to do isn't the most effective time. And yet,
one of the things I find the most interesting to come from the way the world had to shift during COVID, right? One of the most interesting outcomes I find is where some workplaces have gone back to the way they were, right? The people who could go remote in early pandemic went remote. They worked from home. They set up shop in their spare bedroom. They worked in their Jimmy Jams, and they just got things done.
Wait, you said Jimmy Jams?
Yeah, the Jimmy Jams.
No, it's Jammy Jams.
Jim Jams.
Yeah. No, it's Jammy Jams.
Okay. Anyway, so people went to work at home, but they have since gone back, and the work setting is the same as it was before. Right. So it's almost as if nothing changed. But the thing I find most interesting is the other half of the global population that has decided to embrace this change. Offices that have downsized, like the size of their needed office, because they were able to move more employees remote, because they've realized that certain types of employees in certain positions in certain industries can work well from home, and they're not affected by it, and they are
better.
They are more effective. I saw a perfect reel that sums this up the other day, and it was a joke. It was like, hey guy, have you ever heard of this word before? And he's like, what word is that? And it was like commuting. And it was like, he's like, what's that? And he goes, do you want to wake up early for work? Well, no, not really. Do you want to get home late? Well, not really. Well, let's spend 2-3 hours every day in the car wasting absolute time. I was like, but I work so well from home. And he's like, nah, no, we have commuting for that. And so it was like a slap in the face of the whole, like, did we not learn anything? And I think that's a huge step forward in combating that toxic thinking and hustle culture mentality. Like, learning, it warms my heart to think that businesses are actually learn something over the course of the last couple of years, even if it's a purely financial decision, because they can go into a smaller office and have people more remote, and they can reduce overhead in the actual physical building costs and stuff like that. But like to think that some companies are like, you know what, this is better for the employees. They get more work done. They can spend more time at home and less time on the road trying to get into the office, and they are more effective. And I can see that, and it's been measurable. And let's just keep moving forward with that. Like that gives me hope.
Yeah,
you know?
what I'd like to see. I mean, maybe we should look into this and seeing how. I would love to see if we could get some CEOs or business owners who made that shift.
Yeah.
And talk about the differences that they've seen since then, because there are people who do thrive. They in working in an office, and we've kind of shifted a little bit from the hustle culture to workplace workplace. But I think that they kind of go hand in hand, because I know some people that like to have that interaction with somebody else, and they may not have people at their house all day. Like we homeschool, so my wife and kids are right outside the door. Like I could go and see them whenever I want. Same thing with you. Like you can walk out your office door and you're interacting with people. You're just interacting with probably the people you really do want to hang out with and spend time with. And I think to circle back, I want to just make sure that if anybody's listening to this that has experienced that shame from this hustle culture that has completely invaded all aspects of the workplace, all aspects of social media. If you're an entrepreneur and you feel this shame of, well, I'm not where I want to be because I guess I don't want it as bad because I don't get up early or I don't work all the time, and I do take the weekends and I do take holidays. I mean, I guess I don't want it as bad. No. No. You know what? What's funny is we took a week off last week. And before we left, like people asked me, said, "Oh, you're off this week." I was like, I feel great being off this week. You know why? Because we worked really hard. We got 4 new clients last week. We didn't need, like, it was fine. Like everything was fine. Everything grew and everything ran smoothly, and we were off.
The world didn't come crumbling down. I still put a couple hours in. You put a couple hours in, while we were off, but still, like,
some of our teammates
down.
Did. Yeah.
We still had great times with our families. So,
yeah, I think if to maybe just kind of wrap it all up, I guess we would just say it's fine to talk about hustle culture. It's fine to talk about hustling. I think if you are one of those people who are an influencer, who are maybe have said some of those things, maybe preface it next time. Maybe just preface it like, this works for me. This is what gets me out of my comfort zone, so I can do the things that I want to do, and it's worked for me.
Yeah. Just be like, don't throw that shame blanket on me.
No. And I guess you'd be surprised how many people would still respond to the way you were doing it before. But I think you would also open up a door for a lot more people who would be interested to hear what you had to say, because it feels more understanding.
Yeah.
It feels more understanding. You don't have to work 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week. Like you don't have to do that. You don't. No one says you had to. And you still want it bad enough if you worked 40. You still want it bad enough if you work 20 hours on your side hustle. Like, that's okay. It's okay. 100%. So what I would like to do, I told you I was fired up. I thought I was going to yell, but I yell and scream. And what does Dwight do in the office? He's giving that speech, and he keeps pounding on the podium.
It's like bang, bang.
Yeah. Here's what I'd like to do. What Jason and I had talked about is we'd love to open up the show and interview CEOs, owners that maybe have made a shift and learned something from the pandemic of working from home and working out of the home and working for people's skill set and where they work the best.
Right.
But I also want to do have people on the show who talk through combating that toxic thinking of hustle culture, or that toxic thinking deprogramming of hustle culture. Maybe you came out of a work environment that was like that, or maybe it's where you were an entrepreneur and you did have that mentality, and then something clicked, something happened in your life that made the shift for you away from that. I want to hear those stories, because those things excite me, and it makes me hopeful that we're not facing a market where, or a world where that's just the norm. Like everybody's just go, 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 go. And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to be successful, or you don't want it bad enough. And I want to break that mold. That's our goal here, is we want to break that. No more of that karate chopping that. Or Judy chop. Remember that? The Judy chop?
Nope.
Hillbilly Ninja? Oh man. I bet people will know what I'm talking about. Hillbilly Ninja.
What you're talking about.
I'll send it to you later. But yeah.
Okay.
This stuff excites me, and I'm really hoping to hear more stories along this. And this is the reason we started Hustle Machine, and we're going to talk more about hustle culture and kind of demystifying some of that a little bit.
Yeah. I think we also talked about like wanting to get, like, we also want to have the discussion on how to deprogram from the hustle culture. Like, we'll do stories like how did we transition from, having to hustle to having our own hustle, but also keeping a balance with your actual life, So we'll talk about more stuff like that. Also, I want to remind everybody, we do have a community we're starting to grow over on Facebook. So if you look up Hustle Machine on Facebook, you'll find us there. We have a page. We have a group that we're starting to grow. We'd love to build that community up by just having thought leaders and mentors and just great dialogue happening over there. So check us out on Facebook, and then keep listening wherever fine podcasts are hosted.
We got some good interviews coming up too. I'm really pumped.
We do. We have some exciting ones. I'm super pumped about the one you just scheduled. So
I know I'm giddy, like a child. I'm giddy.
I'm saving that for a GIF. Okay. Until next time, this has been Hustle Machine. We'll see you guys soon.
Later, guys.